Welcome to Planets and Their Meanings, Episode 4. Venus, the way you give and receive affection, the aesthetics that keep you engaged, and the money choices that feel like respect. Venus by sign tells you what romance and collaboration actually taste like for you. Fire. Venus wants aliveness and boldness. Earth Venus wants reliability and real value. Air Venus wants conversation and ease. Water Venus wants depth and privacy. Venus by house tells you where love and money flourish in your week. The third loves short trips and talks. The fourth loves home rituals. The fifth needs play. The sixth needs service rhythms. The seventh wants equal exchange. The eighth wants honest intimacy and clean finances. The ninth wants growth and shared beliefs. The 10th wants public pride and good reputation together. The 11th wants community. The 12th wants gentleness and retreat. We'll pair each Venus with a maintenance plan. Dates that land, budgets that don't pinch, and small rituals that keep affection warm. By the end, you'll know how to feed your Venus so love feels possible on a Tuesday and money choices match your values. Start with love and begin at the layer nobody can fake for long. How affection lands in your body. Some people relax only when care is tangible, when there's a warm meal, a blanket that's actually soft, a schedule that doesn't lie, a promise that shows up on time. Others relax only when care is playful, when the conversation crackles, when curiosity keeps opening doors, when you can wander out loud without being asked to settle into a script. Some people don't relax until the room says, "You're safe to feel," and nothing bad happens when you do. Some people don't relax until there's beauty in the corner, not perfection, just a touch of deliberate loveliness that tells the day someone cared. Notice what your body recognizes as care without effort. That recognition is your Venus. When Venus is starved, we turn love into a scavenger hunt for relief. When Venus is fed, patience returns, conflict softens, generosity becomes affordable. In practice, that means naming the dialects of care in the house and trading them on purpose. If your Venus wants reliability and your partner's Venus wants novelty, you don't argue about compatibility for weeks. You alternate one date that is deeply planned and lands exactly as promised, one date that is deliberately weird and invites a story you'll tell later. If your Venus wants words said slowly and their Venus wants quick action, write your kind paragraph and also take the trash out before you send it. You aren't abandoning yourself by speaking two dialects. You're speaking love so it can be heard. Venus thrives where people keep their promises about how they will care, not just who they are when they're rested. Let's talk attachment without using it as a weapon. Venus is not your entire attachment style, but it's the part of you that negotiates comfort in real time. When Venus trusts the room, you reach for connection without losing your edges. When Venus is scared, you might demand reassurance with fury or vanish to avoid needing anything at all. The repair isn't to become flawless. It's to build rituals of repair. Rituals are Venus's best friend. When we hurt each other, here's the 5-minute reset we use. When we get busy, Thursday night becomes our standing check-in. When you're quiet, I'll ask, do you need space or an invitation? Before I decide what your silence means. Venus isn't sentimental about this. It wants a choreography that turns love from a gamble into a craft. Money is where most people trip over Venus because they confuse impulse with pleasure or austerity with virtue. Venus in money is your taste filter and your value filter. It's what you call worth it when nobody's grading you. If your spending constantly leaks in places that don't feel like you, it's not because you're weak. It's because your budget forgot your Venus budgets that omit beauty, comfort, generosity, and ritual will be rebelled against, loudly or in secret. Give Venus a real line item, even a small one, and watch the leaks calm down. A weekly bouquet from the cheap bin you arrange yourself counts if your body smiles when you see it. A cookbook and a Sunday hour count. if feeding people is how your Venus says, this is good. A friend date for dessert and a walk counts if conversation is the only indulgence that ever satisfies you. And if your Venus is sincere, more than it is shiny. Stop buying status signals you don't enjoy. You are allowed to have a plain table and exquisite conversations, and you don't owe anyone proof that you can afford a life you don't want. People ask how to save with Venus alive, because deprivation disguised as discipline never lasts. The move is a values-based budget you can actually keep before you cut. List what makes a week feel like a decent life. Keep those? Shrink the performative extras. If community is how your Venus blooms, spend less on objects and more on shared experiences that don't require debt. If solitude is how your Venus restores, spend less on going out and more on a home corner that welcomes you. The phrase, I can't afford it, changes, meaning when it includes the cost of self-betrayal. Many of the things you can afford in dollars cost you days of resentment. Many of the things you fear you can't afford cost nothing and change everything. A slow cup of tea on a floor you picked up, a window open while it rains, the grace to end a conversation before it corrodes you. Comfort is not laziness. Comfort is lubrication for the gears. Venus decides whether your routines are doable twice. The grind is only sustainable if it contains a softness you can feel. That softness might be music while you do the unglamorous part, might be a 10-minute tidy that saves an hour of irritation later, might be clothes that don't fight your skin, might be a morning light you stand in before your phone makes its case, might be a single high-quality tool that turns a chore into a pleasure. People burn out not only from overwork, but from a poverty of comfort. If you want to double your willpower, double your comfort, and the number of things you do on purpose will rise without the fight. Now, Venus within friendships and community. We talk about love as if it only lives in pairs, but most of your Venus practice happens in the in-between. How you host, how you RSVP, how you praise, how you let yourself be delighted, how you decide whose table gets your weeknight energy. Venus doesn't like scorekeeping. Venus likes reciprocity. If you are always the planner, ask one friend to own a month. If you are always the listener, ask for the favor of being listened to without apologizing for not being low maintenance. If you are the friend who cancels because you run out of social currency, plan smaller, earlier, quieter gatherings on your terms so you stop treating your nervous system like a machine that failed. Venus loves humility in public and specificity in private. You make our group kinder just by laughing when we need to breathe. Come over Tuesday. I made too much soup. That sentence costs nothing and changes the weather for a week. The shadow of Venus is trying to earn sweetness by being useful. You do not have to do the dishes of the world to deserve a soft chair. You do not have to buy everyone a gift to be invited back. You do not have to be agreeable to be loved. Venus at peace is sincere, not obliging. It says yes where it actually means yes and no where resentment would grow. It stops gossip early because it knows the price of cheap bonding. It tells the truth kindly because it wants the room to stay warm even when it's honest. It does not apologize for its tastes or demand others share them. It simply arranges its life so those tastes get sunlight. When we look at sign energy, we're not assigning you a costume, we're offering a palette. If your Venus is fiery, play and praise are nutrients, and your relationships thrive on shared adventures and bold appreciation. If your Venus is earthy, reliability and tangibility are delicious, and your relationships thrive on steadiness, craft, and the visible work of care. If your Venus is airy, conversation and curiosity are intoxicants, and your relationships thrive on ideas, lightness, and the sense that together you're more interesting. If your Venus is watery, tenderness and memory are anchors, and your relationships thrive on privacy, shared rituals, and the permission to be moved. You can use this palette today without knowing a single degree. Pick one gesture in your element and put it where Wednesday can find it. Venus also runs how we receive love. Plenty of people give beautifully in one dialect and can't digest the same quality when it arrives. If praise makes you flinch, practice saying thank you without a counter argument. If gifts embarrass you, receive tiny ones with grace until your nervous system stops translating generosity as debt. If touch feels fraught, design touch you can predict and control. Hands and hair during a movie at home, a shoulder squeeze before a hard meeting so your body can stop bracing. If words feel cheap to you, ask for demonstrations and then notice them when they happen out loud. Receiving is a Venus skill as trainable as any craft. Train it and your relationships will relax because the river can finally flow both ways. Venus and boundaries may sound like opposites, but they are allies. A boundary lets Venus keep saying yes to the right things. Without a boundary, Venus either becomes overgiving and resentful or retreats into cynicism. Practice tiny boundaries delivered early and warm. I can do an hour. I'm not available this weekend. I want to talk, not text, if that's okay. Let's split the check today. You will feel clumsy at first. That's fine. Venus is not about perfection of tone. It's about the softness that returns when you stop agreeing to what you don't want. In work and craft, Venus decides whether your output has a texture people can trust. You may be brilliant, but if your delivery makes people feel hustled or ignored, your brilliance won't stick. Venus asks for grace in the waiting room, a reply that says, "Got it. Here's when you'll hear from me." A process that feels considerate, a design that respects attention. This isn't branding fakery. This is the ethics of beauty. Make the necessary kind. The meeting starts on time, ends on time, and nobody is humiliated. The document is legible. The feedback is actionable. The handoff is tidy. The small mercies of Venus build reputations that marketing can't buy. Let's place Venus in the rhythm of a day, so this stops being abstract. Morning. 1 minute of beauty before tasks, not doom-scrolling images of rooms you don't live in. Beauty you can touch. Open a window. Light a candle. Drink water from a glass that feels nice in your hand. Put a leaf you found yesterday on your desk because it was imperfect and perfect, and you wanted to remember both are true midday. One humane thing that makes the grind repeatable. Music while you handle the boring part. A walk and talk for a meeting that doesn't need a room. Lunch away from the keyboard, even if it's 7 minutes evening. One ritual that closes the day with softness so your moon can hand the baton to sleep. Maybe it's a book, maybe it's skincare, maybe it's washing a single cup and letting clean be the last sensation. Venus thrives on small, repeatable acts that whisper to your nervous system, "I didn't forget you." What about when life is hard and Venus feels like a luxury you can't afford? That's when Venus matters most. Care during ease is pleasant. Care during pressure is medicine. In grief, Venus is the blanket, the thermos, the friend who says, "I'll sit while you call," the playlist that holds your lungs open. In financial stress, Venus is the meal made from staples that still taste like dignity. The room rearranged so sunlight lands on your chair. The refusal to talk to yourself like an enemy. In conflict, Venus is tone, timing, and the choice to argue for the relationship, instead of winning a point you'll regret hanging on the wall. In recovery from burnout, Venus is the tutor that teaches your body safe again. None of this costs much. All of this changes outcomes. There is a reason artists talk about taste evolving. Your Venus will mature as you do. You may spend a decade chasing shiny and discover sincerity was all you ever wanted. You may spend a decade proving you're not frivolous and discover pleasure was never the enemy of virtue. Venus grows up when you stop outsourcing your taste to trends and stop insulting your own longings as naive. Let yourself want what you actually want, and then give it a small, honest place in your schedule and your budget. The world is full of very expensive lives that feel counterfeit to the people living them. Your life doesn't need to be expensive to feel exquisite. It needs to be chosen. I want you to bring one person to mind, the one whose presence makes rooms kinder without trying. That is Venus at work. They probably notice when someone is cold. They probably ask the question that lets someone exhale. They probably make spaces more beautiful by removing one thing, not adding 5. You can be that person for yourself. Look at your desk like it belongs to someone you love. Look at your phone habits like you'd advise a friend you're trying to protect. Look at your to-do list like a kitchen. What can be prepped? What needs heat? What can be served in a different dish so everyone stops snapping at each other? Venus is domestic divinity, not performative luxury. Let me hand you 3 tiny stories with real edges. The first is a couple who fought about money for a year. One wanted to save. One wanted to enjoy life. They were both right and both wrong. They wrote down what enjoyment actually meant. It wasn't designer anything. It was dinners with friends, a summer trip to the lake, a mattress that didn't hurt. They gave those categories names and numbers. They cut the status purchases neither of them really liked. The fight ended because Venus had been included in math, and math had been included in Venus. The second is a manager whose team kept missing deadlines. She was a machine for 12 hours and then resentful and snappish. She added 10 minutes of Venus to the middle of every day. A walk to a tree, a no-email lunch, music during rote tasks. Her output rose, and so did her patience. The third is a man who had not cried in 10 years. He called crying weakness. He also called himself lonely. He began sitting with his coffee at the window every morning without a phone and let his eyes water when they wanted to. He didn't become sentimental. He became available to his own life, and you can start small. Clean one surface, choose one mug you actually like, and donate the rest. Put the good towel on the hook you use, not the one for guests. Wear the sweater that feels like mercy, even if it isn't fashionable. Ask a friend to dinner on a Tuesday for 90 minutes and leave when you said you would. Praise something specific so someone can believe you. Say no early so yes can remain sweet. Spend $10 on sweetness that lasts a week instead of $40 on sweetness that lasts an hour. This is not about performing chic. This is about building a life your body is happy to inhabit. That's your Venus maintenance plan. Taste, tenderness, and transactions aligned. If this unclenched something in you, if you felt yourself want to rearrange a corner or rewrite a budget or send a kind text, follow it. Your Venus isn't asking for extravagance. It's asking for alignment. It's asking you to stop bargaining with your own senses and start treating them like trustworthy guides. And when you want a place to practice that in a way that feels playful instead of pressured, come to mysticbolt.com. You'll find free tools that make this tactile, pull a spread in Tarot Studio when you want a symbolic mirror for what your Venus is trying to say. Try the Rider-Waite Tarot app for a quick nudge before you spend or save. Take a free tarot reading to choose a weekly theme so your money and your calendar tell the same story. Use chakra frequencies when you need focus that doesn't feel like punishment. Wind down with the pranayama flow breath timer so your moon remembers how to rest and your Venus gets to end the day with softness. Before you go, tell me in the comments one way your Venus recognizes good and one small change you'll make this week to trade care in a dialect that lands. Maybe it's flowers in a jar. Maybe it's a planned date and a weird date. Maybe it's a budget that includes pleasure without apology. Whatever it is, let it be real, let it be small, and let it be yours.